So the cell phones in the venue. Imagine 1,000 smartphones all in sync, lighting up the house like a giant living creature.
I am taking over the frigging world.
Mark's latest creation is 2 3D printed shapes filled with 240 LED lights. As he manipulates these objects, you will experience something you've never seen before. Ready to take your audience to the next level? Mark Knizer 4D will pack the house. Using special glasses, we convert light into depth, which adds a 4th dimension to our normal 3D world. Take your audience to the next level. Outrageous comedy.
Jesus, sorry. Luckily, it's in your net.
Amazing juggling. World champion. Mark Knizer.
Woo!
Memories. The memories. I used to work for a living. Before I gained 19 pounds during COVID-19. Yeah, I'm at my full show weight now. Jesus. God, that's a great video.
Yeah,
it really is.
I would hire me.
If I had a venue,
a long time. Jesus.
I gotta tell you, I'm watching it and I'm wondering what the hardest thing that you do is, because every single thing you do, I feel like, is something that takes high risk skills. Where like we're comics, where it's like we just talk shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the hardest part of a show, as you guys know, is to make it more than juggling's juggling, but comedy is the secret to the show. I mean, if it's not funny and you're not making people laugh, juggling gets boring fast. I judge the world championships and stuff, and I'm like 2 minutes in, I'm like, what else you got? What else? Why is this funny? Why, what else is there? So I try to make the show. Yes, there's cool stuff in there that took way too long to learn, but really being funny. And that's why I worked comedy clubs really when I started. And that's what made and street performed and had to be funny to hold people's attention. And I hope I still stuck to that rule and I still write jokes. Got my joke notebook right here.
Like a true comic, he has his notebook right next to him.
Yeah, and my little cheat cards in the back when I'm just doing stand up, I can pull out all my little
That's
jokes.
Dude, you really are a comic. I'm looking. I have my notebook down here. Here's my cheat sheet.
Yep.
It's all the subjects. Richie, where's your notebook?
Moments are being funny. Yeah, where's your notebook, buddy? All
right.
right.
We got it. All right.
Hold on. That's a phone. That doesn't count.
It looks like a notebook from behind, though, doesn't it?
You almost had us. You almost had us.
Did I mention over?
Just to respond to your actual question, like some of that stuff takes a long time, but the truth is you have to make it so easy once you learn something, and I mean truly learn it, it has to be automatic, because if you have to think about it at a show, you're not going to be able to do it. There's a trick where I spin a ball in there. Sorry. On my finger, I kick it with another one with my heel. It comes up over my head and lands on top of the other ball. I worked on that for 7 years in practice before I got it one time.
Wow. Oh my God.
Once. Right. And actually on my wall here is the dude that taught me that. Yes, I suck at this. Exactly.
What I love is as a comic, if I go up like 3 times with a premise and it doesn't get the laugh 3 times in a row, I'm like, that joke's gone. Bye. Never see it again.
And if you change it from the to the, it's suddenly really funny.
Well, let me ask you. Speaking of the comedy part of it, do you always look for the joke? Will you not do a trick until you a trick? Or a trick is not.
Yeah, it's a trick. It's a trick.
Yeah, will you not do it if you don't have a good script behind it, or will you bring something to the stage and hope to ad lib and eventually, like we'll bring parts of a bit up to the stage? Do you do the same thing, or do you want to know that you have the jokes behind it to make it work?
That's a great question. So a lot of times I'll think of like a juggling prop idea. Like these things were made of wood originally. And I'm like, oh, they'd be cool if they had accelerometers to detect acceleration, if the computer could talk to it to make the colors match the music perfectly. So these can any song I can put in, I can put a few markers in and it'll perform perfectly to the music. It's amazing. But why is it funny, right? So 3D printing, they're 3D printed. So I do a whole bit about 3D printing. And so I kind of develop them simultaneously. So the trick is happening, and at night I'm writing jokes about what's funny about 3D printing. So what's my big joke there? 3D printing is amazing. I 3D printed a spatula. I 3D printed these cool Boogang here. That's what they're called. I 3D printed an exact copy of my mother-in-law. There's no difference between them except one of them is made of plastic. It can never love me. And the other one is 3D printed. I'll be here through Thursday. Try the veal.
Do you really have a 3D printer?
No, my buddy in town does.
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh my God, those things are like intense.
Man, we're printing so much shit now, though. You can't really tell, but these are also fully programmable balls, juggling balls. So, yeah, you could do all kinds of crazy shit with them. Built-in accelerometers. Yeah, next level shit. I got nothing else to do, so we're just making props.
So I guess a question that kind of tag on to what Richie was just saying. So now you have 3 things going on at once on stage. So you're on stage, you're doing a tech thing, you're doing tech stuff. You have sound cues, light cues. You have to be in a certain part of the stage. You got to make sure that it's balanced right, everything like that for the trick to work. But then you're doing a skill, which is either juggling or any of the cool things that you have going on stage. But then you also have the personality part of making it funny, interesting, whatever. How do you balance doing that all at the same time? Like I do understand what you're saying about like learning the trick. It's like, I guess I wrestled when I was younger, and you learn the moves so well and go over it so well that when somebody touches you in a certain spot, you automatically know this is the reverse. This is the, so your mind is doing something else while your body's going through the motion. Is it something like that? I mean, I don't know.
The juggling is, well, first the tech part, I don't think about at all because it's so stable and dependable that I actually juggle. You said move into the light. I juggle to the lights. So I don't even juggle to the music anymore. I juggle to how the lights are going to be perfectly programmed every single time. So it's, you know, when you get to a theater normally, you don't know if this is going to happen. I know it's going to happen at exactly the exact place it did at the place the night before. And it's very comforting because half the trouble, if you have a one sound cue in your show, they always screw it up. They always do. I would have one blackout and nobody could do it. So now I know that's going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
So the tech part, I never have to think about it. I use fog machines, and if it's windier or the air conditioning's kicked in and I need extra fog, all I have to do is lift my leg. When I lift my leg, there's a button on my normal remote that sticks
I didn't
out.
know where you were going with that.
I was waiting for Richie. Richie also lifts his leg for fog.
Anyway, but that button changes every routine. So one routine is for fog, another routine it's for black lights. It's something that you might need extra help on. If I'm in trouble, I just lift my left leg and something good usually happens. Juggling wise, I've forgotten about juggling completely if it's ready for the show. So all I'm thinking about is this joke notebook.
Wow.
And how to make it funnier. I record every show just like a comic to listen to how to make it better.
You just made Richie and I completely insignificant because that's all we do, and we don't even do that well.
Yeah.
It's easy. Juggling is cool and everything, but comedy is the real deal, man. I mean, especially if you're strict about writing your own material. I have a writing buddy who helps keep me honest. I'll try to tweak a joke someone's used, and he's like, that was kind of,
it sounds
so-and-so.
familiar.
Yeah, maybe you could really, yeah. Do you know Michael John? Do you know him?
Michael John.
He's out of Canada. Anyway,
that sounds familiar, but
he is so friggin' good. He came on a cruise ship with me once, and all we did, it was embarrassing how much we were hanging out together. And he really made me get back into writing again. And
yeah, that's good. No, you go, Rick.
It's funny how that happens. And people, because I used to do a lot of cruise ships, and I remember. Do you know Peter Sasso?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he and I became fast friends. We were both from Staten Island, ironically. And then a friend of mine is a magician, Rick Burr, and Rick and Josette.
I know Rick. Rick. I used to do the Thousand Oaks Plaza for him all the time. Yeah.
They've been on the show, Rick and Josette. So they
okay.
But it's funny how the entertainers find each other on a ship.
You know what? Your family at that point.
Yeah. And when you go on, especially comics, because we're not on for very long. We're on for a week a lot of times.
Yeah, same here.
Oh, same with you. Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had like Rick and Josette would have 6 months.
Oh, right.
And you get on the ship, and if you don't have somebody when you have the right entertainer there that knows you're coming on and it just goes, I'm going to help this guy out. What a difference that makes,
Or just to have a buddy to hang out with and immediately upgrade to best friend.
Yeah.
There's no like niceties. It's like, okay, we're best friends. Do what best friends do.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Of course, occasionally you got somebody who's a total tool and, talks too much or wants to do a magic trick at every fucking meal. Sorry,
right.
I didn't mean to beep. And
you can say anything.
I know. I heard that guy that got
Kenley
fired
episode
on your show. I can't remember his name now. There's a comic. He got fired from some comedy club because he swore so much.
Vic Kenley.
Vic. Oh, right. That was his name. Yeah. He's terrible to work with, I hear, right? What a terrible, terrible person.
Oh, man.
One caveat quickly before I know he is saying there's some magician that does tricks all the time, but there was a guy, I can't remember what he did. He was some performer, like I think he played piano or something. Same thing, like upgrading to best friends. We're just like joking around, having a great time. And we had to go back and do some immigration thing like the next day. And we're walking along the hall, and it just is a joke. I mean, Richie, no offense, he's like your age, so like 90. And no, he's got to be in his 60s, 65. And we're walking along the hall, and I just sort of do that little funny little tap the back foot, to kind of make him stumble a little bit. Just the tap, just the little funny buddy tap. Dude, the guy went down like a sack of bricks. No chance to get his arms down and hit face first on like the tile floor. He's bleeding. He's like disoriented. I mean, people have to come, and I am devastated. I never did that normally. I just don't know why. We're just joking around. We're always making jokes with each other. Yeah, he was like, and then he's like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "I don't know. You just fell over." Oh my god, so bad.
I mean, that would have been me. So
That tripped him or that fell?
well, it fell.
See, I would have
Jesus.
been in Mark's shoes, and where it was like I tried to do a joke, and then it went horribly wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my god! When I was on the ship, and it's funny that you said immediately becomes best friends, because when I was working, it was with Eric Jones, who was just on, and great magician. But it was like every night at the end of the night, it'd be like, "What time you get up for breakfast? You want to hang out?" Like
Right.
I became this like needy 6-year-old. You want to hang out? We could go. If you're not doing anything, I hear there's a movie tomorrow. We could go check it out.
Well, I got my fourth masturbation at 3, so that's going to be a no. This isn't going to air anywhere, is it?
No.
Nobody watches this. That's what
we
Vic
got,
told
like,
me.
You're
So
fine. You're fine.
We got three. We got 3 viewers, so
We're not even
we're
sure if
good.
Tom is watching in the back.
I can see him, and he just went. Tom, aren't you going to come on? I thought you were joining us when we came out. We had
is he editing this live to make it hilarious? Is there a laugh track we're using?
we could use one.
We're right. Tom.
I thought Tom was joining us. If you do,
Is Tom the tech side?
There
of
he
this?
is.
I'm back here. I'm just sharing it on different media platforms, but nice to see everybody.
Oh, okay.
Wait, you're sharing this? I didn't agree to that.
So, you had to have started at a very early age to be able to.
I learned in a juggling class at 12 years old, but then I started
Was it
street
something
performing
you
in
wanted to
Boston.
do, or-
I'm from Concord, Mass.
Mark, was it something
Yeah.
you were looking to do, or did you happen to just take a class and went, "Oh, I'm good at this"?
My mom was sick of us 3 kids running around the house making noise, so she figured she'd get us to this community middle school to do a juggling class. And my twin sister, my brother, all took off and loved it. Yep, it's so strange, but
Wait, so you weren't into it, but your siblings were?
we just went and took the class. But as soon as I learned, I was like, wow, this is crazy. And so then I started street performing in Boston in Faneuil Hall. And then I started doing like comedy in comedy clubs in that area.
No way. Wait, now what years around was this? Who are
Gosh,
some
this
of the
would have been
comics?
like, 70, well, I guess 80, 81, 82.
So who are some of the guys you're
Seinfeld and
messing? Who's the
Henny Youngman was around.
Oh wow!
That's how long ago it was. Yeah.
Did you
Stephen
ever?
Wright was always in the places I was doing stuff. Yeah, he was
Oh,
just
man.
kind of rising up from there.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Stephen Wright was a DJ Hazard. Were you part of that Ding Ho, the Ding Ho group?
No, my stuff was very small. I did a couple contests there, like comedy club contests. I won one, and then they couldn't give me the prize because I wasn't old enough.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like a prize. Like, oh, you're not. I don't know. Was I not even 18 yet? I
Oh
don't
my!
know. It was. I ended up driving
What
around a
was the
limo.
prize?
It was
What
I
the
can't.
hell?
You know what? I was thinking about it today before this thing. I can't remember what the reason was that I didn't get the prize. Yeah.
They just probably crooked. They're like, "Oh yeah, you're under 18. We can't give you the prize. Sorry."
Yeah, they would have found some reason.
Wow.
Were you just straight stand up at the time, or were you always? Did you always?
So
do
I
jump-
would do like I would open with like one trick. So comedy clubs are teeny; you can't do anything. So I would like roll a ball around my head, and I have a bunch of jokes with that. And then I would just do stand up, and then I would close with juggling that propane gas tank. Yeah. Oh, and I do ping pong balls with my mouth also in the middle of it, which is gross and disgusting and hilarious.
Are you going to be able to do that after the now post COVID?
Right? No, you're right though. It's people. I can't practice it in the gym that I go to, so I have to wait till right before closing time, and I can kind of sneak off in a corner and spit ping pong balls out of my mouth. But yeah, it's
Wow.
it's weird.
So you'd bounce around Boston and doing some stand up, and then what geared you in? Did you go into the college market, or did you go into?
No, I ended up going to San Diego and street performing. Oh, and in college, I won a talent show. And the student activities director saw the talent show, recorded it, sent it to this national contest, and I won that. And that was the thing with Bob Hope. And that's how I got a huge scholarship. I got a bunch of money and toured with him and learned so much about, show business and, show
How long did you get to tour with him?
I did just 2 USO tours, but it was all over Micronesia, and I did every base in South Korea.
Wow.
Stuff in the DMZ, right there with guys with guys sitting on tanks watching us. Flew in helicopters everywhere. It was great, and I was too stupid to appreciate it. I would get to these exotic places, and where would I go? I'd go to the gym and do some juggling.
Wow. Was it like the Marshallese Islands and all through that? Yeah,
we went to like Diego Garcia, Johnson's Atoll, Yap, Ponape, all the Philippines, Okinawa.
Did you see in Diego Garcia, they think they found the remains of Amelia Earhart?
Really?
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. When we were there, they were talking about it, that they think her and another person were held captive there. And I came home and I told my wife that, and she was like, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. And it was just about a year ago. It was all over the news that they believe they found her remains.
Is there a way for them to know for sure?
I mean, that's where they were at when I saw the article, is that they were going to try to justify it. But I saw the building that they said that they think she was in, held prisoner. Because that island's crazy. It's like an atoll or whatever.
Place? Yeah, is that where they store the nerve gas, or is that Johnson's Atoll? I think it's at Johnson's Atoll where they store the nerve gas. Mm-hmm. So when you get there, they pull you over and they go, you got to wear this bag around your waist, and it has all these syringes in it. And if an alarm goes off, you have to start shooting yourself full of all these syringes.
Oh my God! Yeah. I never did that base.
Yeah, that's Johnson's Atoll. The reason they picked it is the wind blows away from the United States all the time. So if it blows up, it's gonna just take out the.
Diego Garcia was like, it's crazy because it's the French used it for a leper colony or something.
Wow.
There's like a crazy history there, and it's owned by the English, but we own all the buildings on it. So it's also where they put all the container ships. So if there's ever a huge deployment, it'll be coming from there. Also, Optimus Prime's there.
Also, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you fly there on a military jet, a military plane, like a C-5 or something?
Yep, it was a C-5, yep. And then there's a place called the Brits Club, and it was all the British Special Forces guys that were getting off duty from Afghanistan. That's where they go to decompress. Wow! So it was like, there's all these British guys on base, and you're like, don't mess with them. Those are killing machines.
They were great crowds, though. You couldn't ask for a better crowd.
Nice. Let's see, Micronesia. Did you guys do Singapore and all through?
No, I've done Hong Kong since then, and I did some stuff in China, but I don't know. The Chinese language doesn't have sarcasm. I mean, think about your jokes, right? Aren't all your jokes really about sarcasm, really?
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that would be tough. So you get to work with Bob Hope, and then you come back, and I mean,
then I did Vegas and that type of stuff for like 6 years. My wife's a singer, performer, and she just got sick of that thing, and she said, I want to go back to Manhattan. And so we moved back to Manhattan, and I got back into Washington Square Park and started just doing the comedy clubs there. Watching Adam Sandler and Chris Rock rise up, open mic night with those guys. And And then my friend Charlie Mount, who you probably don't know, but he hooked me up with DCA, and I've been doing colleges and performing arts centers ever since. Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like, I mean, I guess for comedy, for stand-up, there's like a million lily pads you can jump to. But when you're a juggler, like, where is the ultimate?
Yeah, to me, I mean, a performing arts center where you do a 90-minute show and people get excited and buy tickets and they know your name. I mean, there's cruise ships, but I don't know, man. Cruise ships are a floating jail. And nobody gives a crap that you're there. Nobody is there to see you. They're just something else. And I don't know. It's too loud. It was too quiet. He was too white. I don't know whose voice I'm doing right there. It's someone's going to complain. Can you send me all the complaints, please? I like to put them on the wall.
Forward them over to you.
I got in trouble once on a cruise ship because I got an applause break, and when they started applauding, I went shh, shh. I shushed the crowd, and I went, "You'll wake the front row." They were like, never acknowledge that the front row is asleep because it's always the oldest people get there first, sit in the front, and sleep on you.
There was a woman named Kissing Annie on some cruise line. I can't remember which ship now, but she was crazy. Like by day, she walked around like a crazy witch and just like, but then at night she'd put on like her clown makeup and this crazy wig and want to dance with everybody. They had escorts that would dance with people. And for some reason, somebody said, "Who's going to eat with her?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know anybody. I'll eat dinner with her." So we ate dinner every night. We became friends, but she would always come to the show and fall asleep in the front row. Everybody's show. She was famous for it. And I said, "But Annie, you fall asleep in the front row, and I'm going to bring you up on stage. You're going to have to sit on stage for the rest of the show." And she laughed, and everyone kissed her ass, and because she like lived on the ship all year. Anyway, she came and fell asleep in the front row at my show. And so I had to go down, and I picked her up and carried her up on stage and plopped her down in a chair, and she had to watch the rest of the show on stage. Yep.
So she was like just a regular customer? She would come on?
She lived on the ship all year. Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
That happens a lot. I've heard about that.
Yeah. Do you guys know a magician, short pair of shorts, kind of overweight. And he would get fired all the time. He got fired. He was one of the most fun people to hang out. He snuck a goat. On a cruise ship.
What?
On a cruise ship and kept it in his room. Yes. He had a beach party. He got enough sand to fill up his room with sand and had a beach party in his room. I wish. I feel so bad I can't think of his name right now.
Sounds like a good time.
And the problem is he was so funny and such a great act. He would come out and start to do magic, and it was terrible. And he would just start yelling at the audience, and it was hilarious. And they fired him. They would fire him and fire him and fire him. And we better have him back. He's so great. Yeah. And he just kept doing the craziest. Who brings a goat on a cruise ship? Where do you get the goat?
How do you sneak it on?
Right, and he's big anyway. He's not gonna. What do you put? You can't put a goat in your pants,
especially if he's wearing tight shorts.
I can't. I got a lot of filling down there already. There's no way I could put a goat.
I would bet a baby carriage. I feel like a baby carriage.
Yeah. He kept it in his room.
Yeah, he kept it in his room till they found it, and what? Oh, they fired him. What a surprise!
I mean, what do you do with the goat, though? Like, what was his plan? Like, when they got back
exactly.
What don't you do with a goat?
Well, hello.
Well,
we had to take tickets. We had to get tickets. That's all I remember. You had to buy a ticket. You had your 15 minutes with Goaty there. But, I know this is too many cruise ship stories. I'm going to tell you one more though, because
you can tell them all day. I love this.
So, okay. Guy dies, like people drop like flies in these things, especially the Panama Canal crossing. It's just there was a doctor friend of mine on one of them, and he comes up to the bar one night and he's just got dark circles under his eyes. Young kid, first gig, being a doctor, and he's just shaking his head. He's like, "Oh man, I don't know what to do." I said, "What's wrong?" He goes, we've run out of room in the morgue. We got, I said,
man,
there's so many bodies." And he says, "Can you help me? I gotta go down. We gotta stack them, boy, girl, boy, girl." He's like laying the corpses on top of each other so they can. Anyway, so they have a funeral.
Did you tell him you're a juggler, not a magician? You can't get rid of these bodies.
I helped him. Everybody likes a good body, but anyway, so different time. That guy dies. Wife's devastated. They're going to do a funeral. He always wanted to be buried at sea. They're so excited, and so the crew is out there, and they're going to make sure everything's good, right? So this is right before, and they got the ramp, the nice ramp with and the flowers are all ready, and they get them up there, and they're just like, okay, it seems secure, it's going to be good, and the thing slips, and he goes gone in the water, gone. Right? What? He's gone. Funeral hasn't happened yet. He's gone now. You can't circle back. He's gone. So they make another body out of potatoes, sacks of potatoes, They wrap it all up. They get it ready, and they load it back up again, and the funeral's happening. It's very sad. We're all sad, except for me. I'm peeing my pants. Anyway, it goes whoosh, body goes, very nice, beautifully done. And then, bloop, bloop.
Potatoes coming up.
Potatoes start surfacing the hundreds all around the ship. It's like, did he have potatoes at the buffet? I don't know how digestion works. So weird.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
What's the craziest kind of entertainer on a ship? Like if you're on a ship and they have this kind of entertainer, what is it?
Comics are usually the crazy ones, right?
I would think, but I don't know. I mean, ventriloquists and magicians can be a little off.
Ventriloquists are a little mentally disturbed, I have plenty of great friends that are, but I mean, really, this is your. I mean, it's scary. It's scary. Yeah. The thing is, they really, again, I have many friends that are ventriloquists, and I deeply respect what they do, and they're way funnier than me. But yeah, they actually interact with their doll. Yeah,
without an audience, they're still talking to them.
Yeah, he's in the room with you. Like, what about Chucky?
I remember I had to share a condo with Gemini, and he had this new puppet, and he put it at the dining room table in the condo, and it was just sitting in the chair, and it was staring right at my door.
Jesus.
And between the little crack where the door is, I could see the puppet staring at me. and it was like 4 a.m, and I'm half in the bag. I went out and moved the chair. I can't have this thing looking at me all night.
You should have just turned his head. Looks looking out the window.
But I heard a really great story about they were at Wisecrackers in Allentown, and it was Otto and George. And Jim Norton opened for him, and then whoever the MC was, and they were all sitting around talking, and Otto left to go to the room, but George was on stage sitting on the stool staring at the table, and Norton is apparently scared of puppets. And he goes, I can't take it anymore. He goes up and he turned his head and then went back to the seat, and as soon as Otto walked in, he hears, he touched me.
Show me on the puppet where the puppet touched
you. I also heard one time that somebody walked in and Otto was sleeping on the floor with a blanket and pillow, and George was in the bed.
Well, that's because they'd probably already procreated there. It's uncomfortable. I have
George won the flip.
I have a ventriloquist dummy upstairs. I'm in this little cottage, my office here, and I don't know how I have this, but anyway, he's been the source of many stunts where we make him reappear somewhere. There's another friend of mine, Jason Garfield. I don't know if you know him. Amazing performer, juggler, but also really funny. Also gets fired all the time. He sends me all the emails when he's fired. It's an art, and he's so good. The problem, he's so good they still take him back. Anyway, he hates dummies as well. And in all the melee here, the head got removed from the body. And he ended up going to compete in the World Championships where I was the judge. And I traveled cross country with this ventriloquist head on my body. And he comes out to compete, very stressful. There's he gets to the top 10 get in to compete in the World Championships. And he's coming out, tons of pressure. And I just slip because I'm right in the front as a judge. I just go up and I slip the little Chucky head right in the front of the stage, looking right at him. And he comes out and you could see he is so mad, and he knows it's me, right? He's just losing his mind. And he kicked it and like hits this old woman in the front row, bounces off her head, just like ding. And he went on to win. It was great. Oh my God. Then it made him less nervous,
you were like, the thing you did with the doll head was great. That's how
well, it never hit the ground, so technically that's not a drop, right? It hit the lady's head, it bounced in her lap, so technically we cannot count that as a drop.
Did the lady
would have lost?
Did the lady did it mess her up? Did it
You know what? We just went on with the show. We're jugglers. If you can't take a hit, don't sit in the front row. There's probably going to be a ventriloquist body in your lap soon too. So.
Do you guys have people you look up to, people like inspirations as a juggler? Especially would Harry Anderson have been one or?
Yeah. So, obviously to most of us that make a living, we're comedians first. So often it's a comic you look up to,
right?
Or, and doing comedy clubs younger, I really could feel like, man, this is the real art happening here. And when they would go, oh, a juggler, I'd always be like, I know, right? But on my wall, I have pictures of several people that really inspired me. I was lucky enough to become friends with some of them. It's funny. The people that are the gods, there's a kid named Anthony Gatto who blew away every record that ever existed. But he makes concrete countertops now.
Right.
Wow.
He worked since he was, I think it was 8, and he performed till finally he had some shoulder problems, but he only did an 8-minute act. He never spoke. So it wasn't about, entertainment. It's about juggling. And I'm in the front row with 3 world champions all watching this show, the most incredible performance I've ever seen in my hardest tricks. And I turn around to see what the audience is doing, and they're bored.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at their phones. It's a good time to check my phone. And they just did not get what was happening.
Do you think because of the internet and having YouTube, it upped the game? Because I heard because somebody, I don't know numbers, so I might make a number up that you're going that's ridiculous.
A bazillion.
You're juggling 8 things. Now somebody can watch it and study it so that it's easier for them to learn how to do 9 things.
It's when you see other people do something, it totally makes it attainable. And the thing is, juggling for juggling's sake, again, in entertainment has no value other than how you use it as a vehicle for jokes. You can do something cool visually, but that these people that perform on YouTube, you can't reproduce this stuff live, right? You get one lucky run on something, you shoot it, and you're like, oh, yay. Yeah. But really comes down to what can you do consistently on stage. And that still looks cool, right? Just because something's hard doesn't mean it should be in the show. I'm
probably your ideal audience member because Penn Jillette does a trick where he
With
breaks
glass bottles.
bottles and he breaks them and then juggles with the broken glass bottles. And when I saw him do that, I went in my head, I'm going, he could just juggle the bottle. That's impossible. Like even juggling 3 things, still amazing. How do you do it? Like,
yeah, I mean,
even when I watch people do it with scarves, I go, how did they? I drink too much.
What juggling is? Why, I juggle a bowling ball, a propane tank, an electric carving knife, and it's brainlessly easy. It's so easy.
That's amazing.
It's unbelievable. That being said,
I'd be blown away.
It's painlessly easy, he said.
There's a trick I do where I juggled 3 clubs, which jugglers juggle, right? Nobody cares. Jugglers care. When I won the world championships, it was because of that routine, right? I did a million tricks, super hard. Each one takes 8 years to learn. Wow. Perfect, no drops. But an audience could care less. They don't care.
That is so crazy to me.
They just don't care. So I make that routine interesting. To make it interesting, I come out and I say, I'm going to juggle these 3 clubs. I'm going to change the rules, though. I can do the hardest tricks I know. Drops mean nothing. And then I give the audience my iPad here, and it has a little drop button on it. So each time I drop, they click it, and it adds to the score up top. Catches and drops are happening. So I'm at like 400 catches, 2 drops. And anyway, so the jokes that happen after that are all based on how many mistakes are made. But at least it makes it different than, look what I can do.
Yeah.
You can't. You're an idiot.
I mean, dude, I don't understand between like juggling, and we had a couple magicians on before, and they would do tricks like when Eric was on and Denny was on. I'm just blown away by the simplest thing. They're shuffling the deck to get the trick ready, and I'm going, how'd you do that? That's amazing. And they're just like, I didn't do the trick yet, Mark. I get so excited that somebody has a skill. Like, yeah, to me, that's amazing.
But think about what you talked about with Vic, that killing. Did somebody kill, right? And that's the real test of a great performance. Did they lift the audience up and take them on this thing that was more than what you started with? So that's the bar that I perform for, which, you don't always hit it. It's weird. College gigs, I think, were more lively, and that you could achieve that more often. Big performing arts centers where they're coming, they know who you are. Do I always quote kill? But man, in a comedy club, when you really have it, and that's that small intimate space, and the place is exploding, and you can feel you have it. You could literally just go out and say any word with a K in it, and you're going to get a laugh. Well, except for KKK, that probably doesn't. Changed.
That's that. I don't know if you guys have ever played the club Charlie Goodnights back in the day in Raleigh.
Yeah, a long time.
Raleigh, North Carolina. This club, it was like, man, if you don't kill in that room, just quit. Just walk away from the business, because that room is every single brick, I think, was laid to bounce the laughter right back at the audience. It was, wow. And I haven't been there in years, but I mean, I remember going into that room and just going, oh my God, like that was the set of my life. And the comic I was working with was like, if you can't kill here, quit. Like this is the gig.
Right.
Yeah, made for it. Did you enjoy like street performing? Did like that intimate out of nowhere where people didn't expect it coming? Was that as fulfilling?
Well, I have a rule on my podcast. When you talk to somebody and they start to talk and never say and you've hit their sweet spot, something they're passionate about, something they love, and they will talk about it nonstop. So you have to cut me off here, but I learned to street perform, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. If you imagine having a child and you're like, what's your kid do? He's a street performer. You would be embarrassed and think they were poor. But man, you get out there, and I learned to have a show. I mean, that's where I built my show. And you, like I said, something from nothing, and the energy that builds. Washington Square Park is the Carnegie Hall of street performing. I don't know if you've ever been in the circle at the Village. It has to be inside the fountain, though. They filled it with water now. But in its day, that was the Carnegie Hall of street performing. You couldn't get into that spot unless you were a threat to the circle from the outside. So there'd be the circle. So it'd be Charlie Burnett, Albert Owens.
Charlie Burnett, we were just talking about him.
Oh my God! Oh, I could talk about him all day, man.
That's our next one. I'm going to write that down.
They'd be kicking ass in there, and so anyone on the outside would try to start a show, and if they got any attention, the inner circle would stop their show and do a mega show and crush the audience outside. There'd be so much energy and screaming from the crowd that any attempt to start a show outside would pull it back to the center. So no one could compete with us. And well, I couldn't get in because I wasn't in the inner circle. But I came from San Diego, where I'd been doing 5 shows on Saturday, 5 shows on Sunday, hour-long shows by myself. And I was enough of a threat that they were like, "Oh, you want to come in here and do some shows?" So I got to work the circle with these guys. But yeah, Charlie and Albert. Do you remember Albert Owens? Is that too? He was before Charlie.
I don't know him. No.
He's who taught Charlie. These guys all died of AIDS from drugs.
Intravenous.
Wow.
I remember that whole scene.
Who was Rod Reyes's brother? Alvarez?
Rick Aviles.
Rick Aviles.
Rick was down there.
Yeah.
Rick was down there. Yeah.
I always would hear stories.
Yeah. Well, he would be high on heroin when I would do college gigs with him. And DCA would go, "Mark, you got to keep an eye on him, you know." And I couldn't keep an eye on him, but
keep him under wraps.
Charlie would come out and just kill. He would come out and be. Did you ever see him live, you guys, in there?
No,
I didn't.
No, you know what? I might have. But I think I've seen him, but in a club. I don't think it was outdoors. I think it was in a club.
I have an obsession with the history of comedy, and I've heard so many stories about Rick and Charlie, and I absolutely I wish they had footage of these guys.
Proudest time of my life was to work with those guys out there, and the show would never end. So, you know, I would do my 15, whatever. Sometimes I can't remember how long it was anymore. Anyway, you do your show, pass the hat, but while you're passing the hat, you're like, "You guys, you won't believe my friend Charlie's coming up here. You're not going to believe he's already out there. He's getting ready and starting." And so you hand off to the next act, who finishes, hands off to the next act. And you do, I think there was like 4 acts. It would come back around to you, and so you'd never lose the crowd. You'd always have 12 deep. He would come out and do the most uncomfortable. I mean, this is mothers and fathers and every race. And he would come out and do this really intense black, white people humor. Like, black people are cool and you know, you honky, and he just all this racial tension and build this massive tension of you and them, and we're different and you're different. You're racist. You're not. Build this hatred. And he would do a woman masturbating, laying on his back, just like, you know, fingering himself, coming on the ground. And you're like, "Oh, what is going on?" It was just too intense, too scary. And then this is when he was at his best. And then he would quietly start to reduce the rhetoric and then go, "But you know what? You're like me, and this is why," and bring the whole crowd together as one after all this intense, you suck and racial and sex, and you're all kind of, and then suddenly he would unify everybody. And the hairs on my arm are standing up just telling the story, and you could feel him unify the whole crowd. And then he would pass the hat, and he would make more money than anybody. Well, Albert was also similar to this, but I remember he cleared $500 in one show.
Wow.
I broke 375 was the most I ever made in one show there. Yeah, that's just killed.
In 15 minutes.
Well, I can't remember the exact length anymore of how long the show spots were, because it was all just assigned by us. We were in charge.
How many people would be in a circle? Like how long you would?
Well, if you know the fountain, they'd all be sitting on the stairs.
Yeah.
On the inside, and then they'd be standing like 8 deep on the outside, all fighting, and new people would be fighting for position to come in. So if somebody ever left, it was immediately filled in by somebody else.
Usually, how many entertainers were there at one point?
Typically 4 acts would be all that. It was Joey, who's a sword swallower. He was I always say it racially because that's how we used to joke with each other. He's Hispanic. Puerto Rican sword swallower, a Chinese kung fu guy, the Calypso tumblers who are from Jamaica, and then Albert and Charlie and me. And we'd sort of change who was there. But I remember doing a show. It was Albert, me, the white guy, the Puerto Rican guy, the sword swallower, and I can't remember the Chinese guy's name now. Michael Lee, William Lee. You probably know him. He does stand up too. Anyway, we did a show just together after work one night, just over at Bleecker. And we just called it the We Are the World Tour. And we did that whole racial stuff, just like being all talking and mean racial stuff. And then we'd join hands and sing We Are the World at the end. And we would make so much money. We'd go to dinner and just blow all that money. And but the best memories I have is of that. So
now, aside from the acts, like the politics of the acts, were there a lot of like shakedowns of like who ran the park would want to shake you guys down for money and stuff?
Well, there was, you have
some scary moments.
Well, the guy that before I got there, he had already left to go to Venice Beach. He got stabbed. Yeah, there was a fight between performers. That was the issue, is that this was so much money happening in that circle that there was definitely danger. I would always have the 2 machetes I used in my show sticking out of my backpack, because when I would leave there, I'd have, $1,200 in my bag,
Yeah.
But I was there in a way where I already had done Vegas and all this stuff, and I wasn't there for the money. I was there to really rebuild my long show, because I was trying to do colleges now. And so I was really a peacekeeper. I like to think that when stuff was going down, I was like, hey, let him in. He can come in and do a set, and instead of making it war, and plus Albert was dead, and Charlie would come now, instead of coming in and doing whatever it was, 15, 30 minutes, he would come in and do just enough material to get a hit a crack.
Wow.
So he'd do 3 minutes, and then extort money from somebody and then leave,
Wow.
So sad. It was so sad. And that was right when Rick died too. Right?
Yeah, Rick died. Yeah.
Now, when Charlie got called up and thought he was going to Saturday Night Live, was that like a big celebration of the group? Or was that like, oh, fuck you?
That was before I got there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But do you know why he didn't get that?
Couldn't read, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's so wild. We had Rob Bartlett on, who was Eddie Murphy's buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he's confirming that story then.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've told that story so many times, you start to wonder: is
this my truth or his truth? Right. I'm starting to realize as I'm getting a little older, is a lot of my memories, I distinctly remember something, and then I'll have like 3 people tell the story, and I'll be like, "That's not how I remember it," but all 3 of these people remember it a different way. So I guess I remembered it in my own way.
It's your perspective. It's your sight of that story. Right?
But in the retelling of stories, we each time we tweak it slightly. For example, you remember, did you see my promo video where I was hang gliding and juggling?
Yeah.
Right. So I was really into hang gliding in California. I lived there for 15 years and love it. I would juggle and then fly almost every single day. And there's a story which I told many times. One of my favorite stories of my hang gliding. I'm flying over a golf course, and I'm probably in LA. I'm in LA, and I'm probably at 5,000 feet. And you look down and you see a guy, and he hits this ball, and it goes around and up and over and in the hole. It's like a hole in one. Impossible. No one around. There's nobody. Nobody's with him. He's alone. And I scream, "Great shot!" Because the way the hang glider is shaped, it really reflects the sound down. And he looks up and he's like, "Yeah!" Somebody saw it. It's like the greatest moment. I can see it in my head. I remember what he was wearing. I never experienced that. It was my friend Joe Greblo, who was my hang gliding instructor, who told me that story. I never experienced that story. And I told him the story. I was at a bar with him years later, and I told him the story, that it was me. And he's like, "That was me." It's like, what?
Wow.
I stole the story and didn't even know I.
But your memory will make it real to you that you weren't lying.
Wow.
I've
had
lying.
the same thing. Me and my one friend have the same story, and I'm like,
only
how
have
do we
one
both
friend?
have this story? I don't even have him anymore.
Yeah, because I don't count me as a friend. It's making me very uncomfortable.
Unless we're on a cruise ship, then you'd be my
No,
best
then
friend.
totally. I have a goat in my room. I want you to see.
Polly Chaser just said, "I don't trust any of you anymore." I wouldn't trust any of these three even before I knew they were liars.
They had a goat icon too. Did you notice that?
What's that?
They
Oh,
had
yeah,
Polly Chaser as a goat icon.
Are you the guy? Maybe Polly's the guy who smuggled the goat on the ship.
No,
be great.
I'm gonna think of his name. It's gonna take me a while. He wore a tuxedo with black shorts. So he had a tuxedo t-shirt on and then black cutoff shorts. I can't believe you guys haven't worked with him.
Wow.
Oh my god! Now, when you worked in New York City, what were the clubs that you were hitting?
Oh, it's been solo comic strip, right?
Man, we had a rough year
Oh,
this year for the
upstairs-
comic strip.
Upstairs at Green Street. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It was a good
A lot of the places that were like mixed stuff, so it wouldn't just be just stand up. There'd be
Yeah,
you
what
know,
was
Variety kind of
the
shows.
place down
Yeah.
in the village, Mark? That
yeah, right by them. I know.
something with magic in it.
I did Catch a Rising Star a bunch. I did that with the guy, one name black comedian.
Maceo.
No, he won Star Search. First winner of Star Search.
Sinbad.
Yeah. So Sinbad came through the same system that I did with the
Oh,
Bob
okay.
Hope stuff and all the USO stuff. He was in the same. So same as Jeff Dunham. He was also in that same group of people that did all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's we had a rough year this year for the for the east side of comedy. Between losing Dangerfields, the owner of the comic strip Richie just passed away, and Vic, who is a staple of the comic strip, all went away.
Chario, who was a staple of Dangerfield.
And Chario, I just had a Chario discussion today with Stan Stankos.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man.
We called. We were talking about how he would walk by the stage. He would walk by the stage, and then he'd lift his back leg up like this, and let out the loudest fart you've ever heard
You could fart like that.
while you're performing. You're on stage, and all of a sudden his back leg goes up, and you just hear what? And you're just like, "Oh my god!"
And like the audience would literally like look like
Was that real?
he used to. You know what he used to do too? You'd walk in and he'd have. It was early days. He had discs, porno discs for his computer. So he's watching porno. You walk in and he's got the porno on the bar, just watching it like a movie. Like, what are you doing, man? And why is your dick in your hand?
No wonder Dangerfield loved him.
Yeah,
Before or after his set?
Chario was like the guy who was seating everyone.
he was the head waiter. He was. Yeah, he was
Wow.
fine.
I was just talking to Stan that I was like, Chario would have been my kid's favorite comic. My kids think farts aren't not even funny. They're the greatest thing ever. Like they'll wake me up in the middle of the night because I have to fart and they want me to hear it. Daddy. And then they go back to bed. I'm like, what the hell just happened?
I was working with Barry Manilow, opening for him, and the band. We were so bored, we would sit in the van, and they were like, if you ever had to fart, you would make an announcement, I'm going to fart, and everyone would stop, and you'd have to sing. You'd go, oh, and whoever could fart their note for the day was the winner. So they would literally. It was. I'm not a. I was lost, but man, one night
I'm not musical, but man, I killed.
No, this guy nailed it. It was like we were shocked. We all looked at each other like, "There's no dispute." That is correct. That's a skill set.
I have perfect pitch.
Who else have you opened for? Have you opened for big names like?
I want the list. Ray Charles.
Wow.
I got to with Ray on his birthday.
Really?
We had a little like house that we were staying in. It wasn't where we were sleeping, but it was like we were getting ready for this big. Where was that? Was at the I think it was at Las Cruces at the Pan Am Center. But anyway, he was smoking like a fish before the show, just like coming out from under the door, and I'm like, no, thank you. I have to do some tricks.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I got to party.
You have to like probably stay pretty straight.
Yeah, I'm not going to smoke a big
stage.
dude before I run on stage at that point. But he was an amazing performer. I don't know, a lot of different people. Bob Hope. I really enjoyed
Bob Hope story.
Well, it's a weird story.
We like those.
He was super nice, always supportive, did a lot for people like us. I also have a picture of him on my wall right over there. I'm shaking his hand here. I'll grab it since it's not that far away.
Yeah. I absolutely love, he's like this straight and narrow guy. It seems like everybody's dad or uncle, but hung out with all those guys and watched it. Oh, wow. Look at that.
Look how pretty I was.
Look at you.
I was a pretty boy.
I loved you in Boy Meets World.
Ryder, Storm, or whatever.
When I spun around, that hair would do some cool shit, though. It was really pretty back then. Trust me. So
I like how straight and narrow you are, but then you're out. You know, you're with the crew in Washington Square Park. You're smoking bones,
right?
Ray Charles.
Yeah, I'm always the little harmless white guy. You know, no, everybody thinks. Yeah, and whenever I catch anybody smoking weed, I act really upset, and they get very uncomfortable. It's so much fun. What are you guys doing? I caught some kids the other day, and they were like, right, give me that stuff so I can throw it away right now. Give it all to me. Throw the stuff away. You guys are bad.
You watch Charlie Barnett probably shoot up in his penis. These kids are smoking a oil pen. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Nazar. Here's your...
Nothing better than catching kids like that. So sweet. Okay, so let's see. I'm opening for him at Clemson University, and we both lived in Burbank, California at the same time, which is strange, right? We both come from California. He's with his wife Lois. This is old. I mean, he's like got to be in his 80s. And I'd already. This is many years after doing those other things with him. Gotcha. Anyway, we go out, huge arena gig. 360. The stage slowly rotates real slow.
Oh wow! Like Westbury.
Same stage we used for George Burns. Wait,
you got a George Burns story?
I do have a George Burns story.
We need that next.
All the old people. So anyway, he's out there doing his thing, and I've gone on. I'm done. I did my 20, and I'm feeling good. So I'm just sitting there watching and knowing these moments are historic. I've just taken it all in. His manager is also like 900 years old, and he's in the back. And he's somehow radioing in stuff to another person on stage. And Bob's just doing his thing. He's killing. He's doing great. He's a little old, but man, he's sharp and does this joke about golf with Gerald Ford. We never knew what green we were going to tee off on until after he started. I guess he's a bad golfer or something. He does that joke. It's a huge laugh. And then they do, that's what it is. They do question and answer from the audience. And so they have these people out there that are lined up to ask him questions. So the show's a little longer and stuff. And the manager's so old, he hasn't been paying attention that Bob already did that joke about the golfing thing. So he hands him the card to the volunteer who says, "Have you ever played golf with Gerald Ford?" Ask them the question. He's just told the joke maybe 2 minutes ago. And he's so old, he doesn't know he just told the joke. So he tells the joke again, like it was brand like he'd never heard it before.
He just came up to it.
Just and he would forget punchlines because he was so old at that point. He would start the joke, say it, forget the punchline, lean over, and the guy on stage would like whisper the punchline to him, and he would laugh like, "Oh, that's a great one," and then he would tell us, "Oh, there it is! It's a good one."
I've heard that similar setup, but it was John Fox when he was blacked out drunk, and he wouldn't remember his jokes, and the opening act would sit in the front row and yell, like whisper it to him, and then he would tell the joke.
Oh my god! So on the flight home, so normally I would take a commercial plane, but I heard them in the green room. They were talking, and Lois said, "Oh, we're going to head back tonight because the hotel was kind of moldy," and which it did smell a little moldy. And I was like, "Oh, cool! I didn't know they had a flight out of Atlanta or whatever it was." And she's like, "Oh no, we're taking the jet." And I said, "Oh, that's so cool." And she goes, "Well, you should just come with us because you're going to be done." I was like, "Okay." And next thing you know, the show, and I'm done. Bob walks off stage, walks down the stairs. The limo is running right there into the limo. There's no like hanging out. Go out the limo drives out the arena, around the corner to a dirt road, and right there is the Learjet running with Bob Hope's face painted on the side. They take my prop table, they slide it underneath, button it up, and we're on, and we're in the air in, I'd say, 10 minutes after we walked off stage. Yeah, and just sitting there. He's in his big lounge chair with his wife in the front. I'm sitting behind them with the butler and the manager and stuff, and he reaches across the aisle and takes his wife's hand of 70 years or whatever, and says, and this is what comics are all about, right? He says, was I okay? Did I do okay? And she takes his hand and says, "You were wonderful." And yeah, it was just that insecurity that powers all of us. We suck. Self-loathing. Every time you walk off stage, you hate yourself so much you want to die.
Doesn't matter. He's been doing it 70 years. Still needs the validation of his wife.
And think about, he doesn't have to do it. He's got enough money to have his own jet. And at that point, he doesn't have to do anything, but yet he still wanted to go out and do it.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
And he like tripled his money in real estate. And owned businesses, and
he didn't need to do it. But yeah.
Oh, dude, he owned. He was I remember in the early 90s, I had a girlfriend at the time who was also a comic, and she was complaining about the business or whatever. And at one point she just stopped and she went, "If you hit the lottery tomorrow," and we were really new comics, we were new and neither one of us was really that good. She goes, "If you hit the lottery tomorrow and never had to work again, would you still do comedy?" And I said, "Absolutely." And she went, "Yeah, I wouldn't." I go, "Then you need to quit." And she did quit not that long afterwards.
In fact, I think I need to win the lottery to continue to do comedy.
Yeah. Why do you love yourself unless you have to really love it. You have to really love being a performer.
Yeah. All right. I want to hear the George Burns story.
Okay. Well, I feel the same way about my show. Like it's hard. I have to stay physically in a crazy shape, and I'm definitely getting older, and I have to practice crazy amounts to maintain this, but I still want to. I still want to get out there. I still get excited about a theater curtain opening and getting to try one more time to not fail catastrophically, and then maybe not hate myself. So, yeah. All right, George Burns. So another big arena gig. All these gigs are happening because a direct result of that contest thing, where all those people that gave us classes are now putting us in front of their people, a lot of managers and stuff. My point is I didn't get it, fairly. It was handed out to me as a prize. So he's also on a rotating stage. And anyway, we're backstage getting ready to go to a press conference right before the show starts, which you never do in real life. But with these people, right, there's always a press conference. And when you come to town and I just was so nervous all the time, and I'd be juggling full speed right before I walked out. It was never like hang out and relax. And And I knew, Oh God had just come out, so I'm literally
I love
with
that
God.
movie.
And it's just he and I
Working
sitting
with
in this
God.
room together. We're just sitting there. And I said, George, do you ever not get nervous going out there? And he like shakes his head and thinks about it for a minute. And he says, if you don't get nervous, you have no right going on stage.
I love that.
And that really just was like, and that changed everything for me. So now when I'm nervous, I'm like, good, you're in the right place. You have a right to be nervous. And that helps me not be nervous because I know that nervousness is part of the puzzle. So we go out and do the press conference, and they ask me some stupid questions. They're all like looking over me, and I'm hiding, but George behind me so I can have the limelight. But anyway, he comes out, and the whole reason they're waiting. And he's just going to turn 100, right? He's 98 or something. And,
so this is 50 years ago.
This guy goes, "Hey, how can we get tickets to your show and your 100th birthday? You're booked at was it the Palladium? I can't remember. He was already booked for his 100th.
He was booked for like 9 years. I remember on his birthday. On his.
Do you remember what venue it was? I don't remember.
No, you know what?
I'll look it up while you guys.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anyway, he kind of looks. He takes off his glasses, and kind of and he looks at me and goes, "You can come. you can go. It's fine." Yeah.
I gotta find out where this was.
I mean, he hit 100, but he didn't.
Caesar's Palace.
Caesar's Palace.
Wow.
But he wasn't able to perform. I remember that.
Yep.
Wow.
Crazy, man. It's been a crazy ride. I expected so little. If I could have been a good street performer, I would have been a happy person.
That would
Here
have been.
I am, 58 years later. And is that right? 50? Yeah. Oh my God. No.
Wow.
48 years later. 48 years later.
Oh, that's better. I was going to say, you look great.
I'm going to turn 60. I'm coming up on 60. So.
Oh, no shit. Damn. And you still do all that physical.
Yeah, that's wow.
Still.
If I take down the green screen here, this is a yoga studio.
No.
Wow.
My wife is a yoga teacher. I do yoga 4 times a week. So that's what's saving me. Plus I stretch, but man, my head and neck cracks every time I do stuff now.
now you're really
More
making
fog,
me feel obsolete.
More fog, more lasers, less.
Lift your left leg real quick.
The ultimate show, you're not even there.
I did a virtual performance the other day. So I made an entire show that was me sitting here. The green screen was all working. So I had a big mixing board and stuff. And I would go, okay, I'm going to do this now. I'd stand up, I'd walk off frame, and I have an iPad there. I would tap the iPad and it would immediately have me walking into frame back here. I have a huge green screen there as well. You can't probably see it in that shot, but it would be pre-recorded. So I'd record me doing some crazy ass stuff that you could never do. Like I pick up the Earth, it's in orbit in space, and I take it and I do tricks with it and stuff, and I put it back into orbit.
Wow, that's
the whole show. So no drops, perfect show because everything's pre-recorded. All green screen based, so everything had like weird, like I did cigar boxes, but they were fish tanks, and the fish are flopping around in there and stuff. So yeah, the whole show was just virtual show. It was really fun though.
Oh my God. So you're making us feel so obsolete because that you do all these tricks while you're doing stand-up. Richie and I just do stand-up barely. And then you're in all this physical peak conditions. And Richie and I think we walk 10 minutes a day.
It's still being a comic is more important and more entertaining than ever being a juggler. I mean, that's a fact. Nobody cares about juggling. I care. A few other people care, but that the act of that isn't what's interesting, right? It's people still want to hear a story. Look at us. There's no juggling on this podcast. We're talking. Why are we even on camera?
I mean, it's my favorite thing is to sit around and just talk shop after a show. I mean, I just did a show with Justin, who's our buddy of ours. He's the opera singer. We couldn't wait for the show to be over so we could all go sit backstage, have a drink, and just talk shop.
Well, last night I did a show with 3 really good friends who are comics, and we hadn't seen each other in a while. And all 3, we're really close, the 4 of us. And one of them said, he goes, "How do we set this up where we just go out together?" You know, like, and we're like, "Yeah, why don't we do that? How do we make that work?" You know,
a 5-man comedy team.
There's nothing worse than when you get into a gig, you go somewhere, and the other comic is someone you don't like. And you're like, "Oh, fuck." Yeah.
Or especially worse when you halfway through realize you don't like them.
Yeah.
You're stuck in a cruise ship, and 2 days in, you're like, I don't like them.
Yeah.
So now I know what you guys all feel like when you have to work with me.
Yeah, I mean,
I make sure Jerry never lets me get booked with you. That's one rule we have. Yeah, I don't want to work with him. I didn't even give you a chance. I
don't blame you.
Sucked.
You've seen my video.
No, there's no way. I tried to edit that. I couldn't get the laugh track loud enough to even work.
The bad part is everybody thinks I'm stoned all the time. I'm like, wait until I get stoned. Wait until you see that.
He's not.
That's not what.
This is me. Completely.
How did your hair get like that?
It's getting worse. I grew a mullet. I'm growing a big mullet for this thing. A corporate thing I have to shoot in Dallas. I'm growing a mullet and I'm growing my beard really long. So I'm going to look real classy.
Time to shoot some new promo shots then.
As soon as I get my mullet in.
Yeah.
Richie, do you have any shows? Anything coming up?
Well, yeah, I'm doing Cisco's Room. Cisco's opening up down in Phoenixville again.
Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. What's your date? Let's plug it.
May 7th. Friday, May 7th.
Friday, May 7th.
I think one show's already sold out, which is amazing. So,
and is that 20% capacity? So 6 people?
No, I think it's at 50. So it's 12 people. But
you're doing the big room then.
I will say this: I've done some shows in the last few months, and in front of an audience, and I noticed that people are really looking to come and to a show. I mean,
you're right.
Last night I did a show here in Long Island, and it was packed because people are just dying to get out. It's really interesting. I think there's going to be a new feel of, for at least for a little while, of performer and audience of a meshing that it's going to be a lot easier, I think, for a little while to get them on your side. You know what I mean? Because they're just so happy to be out and seeing shows again. And we're happy.
It's been painful though, doing gigs like you said, sold out. I did one performing arts center in Michigan or something far, and they said we're sold out. All 3 shows are sold out. But yeah, it was 20% capacity. So there were 6 rows between a little family here and there, and you could never attain critical mass because it's a huge space. There's just not enough compaction.
I was at Bucks County Playhouse, and it's a beautiful 300-seat theater. I've been dying to get in there. I get in there, I show up, and they're like, "We sold out Friday and Saturday," and I was so excited. It was 300-seat theater, and it was 30 people.
Yeah.
And they're spread out in this giant theater. So it was like there was no momentum. There was no like getting it going. It was just like, all right, here's the joke. Start over. Here's the next joke. Start over. Here's the I had to do an hour. It was like I think I burnt through 2 hours of material.
Yeah.
But that's the problem with virtual, right? Is any kind of like joking. I was supposed to. I did some of those cards when I did that virtual show. No laugh. This is what laughter is now. People waving their hand, shaking their hands because they can't step on each other. Everyone's muted. So you're supposed to be doing comedy and getting feedback and getting that momentum. There's no chance. Even if you're killing out there, you'll never know.
Yeah, you just
600 people want to friend you on Facebook. Wait, show me your hand so I see if I know you.
Yeah, you look familiar.
Oh yeah, I know those.
I'm very excited though because it is starting. Like bookers are starting to call, things are starting to move. I get it; it's going to be slow going into it, but God, I can't wait. I just can't wait to be regularly working. Tomorrow I'm doing Breezy Point, New York, the Colony Theater. But again, I have no idea what the capacity is. So I know that theater. I'm very excited to play there, but it might just be to 50 people, and that's not going to be nearly.
Where is that?
New York City, Brooklyn.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're going to be in Brooklyn tomorrow?
Yeah.
Wow.
Want to hang out, Richie, in person?
I'm going to be in Staten Island, so I got to make on my way home. Maybe I'll stop over.
Well, come over. I'm working with Peasy.
All right, cool.
Yeah, we'll have a good time.
All right.
I'm jealous of all these gigs.
Are you anything in the books?
I got Memorial Day weekend. They got 3 shows at the Greenbrier down in West Virginia there.
Oh, nice. Cool.
So it's a big space, so it's a huge ballroom, and they'll again spread everybody out. So so they can't accidentally hear someone else laughing.
So let me check this real fast. So real quick, we're going to wrap up here. We got 2 minutes, and we're going to switch over. So we'll switch over. So anybody watching, you just hit the refresh button. Gary Allen is following us, and he is with Brian Baldinger from the. You know who that is, Richie. Tell us about Brian Baldinger.
We had him on our show. We had him on Drink Strokes and Storytelling last year.
Yeah, he's a great guy. NFL. Does he do the sideline, or is he just a commentator?
No, he does. He works for the NFL Network, man. He does. Really, he's amazing.
He knows his shit.
Yeah, I'm actually jealous of Gary because we should have had him on to talk about because the draft is Thursday. The NFL draft. We definitely need him back because he is I would say he's probably the foremost authority now in football commentating. Like people, Gary, that's a great guest for Gary to get, man. If you're in football, you don't want to miss that. I'm actually.
Is Tom gone?
Tom's going over because he has to prep.
Sorry, I'll be back. I have to set them up to go live on air.
Tom, I have to ask you one quick question. What camera do you have? Send me that.
I'll talk to you in the green room after. I promise. I'm with it. I'll definitely. Right. Well, I'm not going.
Yeah, when we say goodbye, don't X out. Okay. Just stay. And we also want to thank Dan and Jerry for hooking it up, making sure Mark could come on.
Thanks.
Normally, it's a pleasure. A round table, so we have more than one guest, and we were like, what should we do? And but you were great. You did it.
Fantastic. Thanks. We'd love to have you
get
back
together and do a Broadway Danny Rose table together and just talk about those moments. You know, we all have them. We all have those connections. 6 degrees of Charlie Burnett. You know.
Well, we'll definitely have you back.
We have to have you back. It would be fun. We'll try to maybe get a nice round table and all. I'd love to tell those stories and just hear some
round table of those getting performers who work in Washington Square Park or whatever.
We could get William Lee. I don't know if Joey is still available. I've tried to reach out to him. He was one of my best friends, one of the best street performers. Sword Swallower.
Right.
They would have so many good stories. Yeah. I don't know. I've tried.
I would love to hear.
William Lee.
And even like guys like Gemini who used to do the street performing, he was after you guys though. And but that would be so much fun. Polly, thank you for tuning in. And guys, stick around. Brian Baldinger's on with Gary Allen. And Mark, you stick around. But we're gonna say goodbye from Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling, the round table. Good night, everybody.